Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to go over information on shipping containers. And I hope Casey Murray is watching. I don't know who all's on yet, but we're going to give it a few minutes. Because I posted a post about people having problems with censorship. And what I did was a couple of days ago, I did a video because they're trying to censor myself on information that's actually in the public domain. And what it was is they tried to, they're preventing people from posting case, they're preventing people from posting case law and things like that to get the truth out about how the court systems and stuff work. And so I did a video on that to expose the case law, because there's the way it's working right now is they are censoring posts, and the posts that the AI can actually censor are the text posts. So that's why I do videos. That's why my videos go through and don't usually get censored or flagged or anything. And so what I'm going to do today is Casey Murray on my censorship and solution that says, send me the info they are censoring on your post, and I will do a video showing sources. And then they can fact check all they fucking want. But the caveat stands. If it's information sustained in the public domain, then they have zero authority to remove it. It was put in the public domain as public information because it's known to be true. Now, we have news reporters all over this planet that put out news reports, which the social feeds get their information from. So when they censor things in their social site that actually exists in the public domain, and they're in a public domain themselves, that's unlawful. That's called violation of freedom of speech, violation of freedom of the press. See, Facebook professes that they're some kind of publisher, and the only damn thing they publish is their own policy. That's what they can publish. But in fact, they are selling and buying. That's why it's a Facebook.com. .com stands for commercial. So everything they do is commercial and must follow the commercial standards. And the commercial standards say that if it's public domain, you cannot fuck with it. So let's visit some public domain. We're going to do some research here, show people how to put the information out there without being censored. And of course, first one we do is we go to YouTube. Go to YouTube. We punch in shipping containers in the news. Now what I did was I opened up a bunch of links already. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this first one.
Well, now 5:30, blocked by the port bottleneck. One city is caught between two 24/7 ports and seeing this on their streets. Several large containers blocking their driveways. Supply chain crisis is now spilling, as you see there, into nearby communities.
Well, CBS 2's Rachel Kim asked the Transportation Secretary about possible solutions.
As the supply chain bottleneck at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach continue to leave few places for empty shipping containers to sit, they're spilling over and now waiting in surrounding communities, sometimes along residential streets like this in Wilmington.
And it's a bunch of neighbors that are very upset because it's a non-stop situation.
Sonia Cervantes lives along Anaheim Street, where UCTI
You guys heard that? Non-stop situation. And this thing's been building. This was October 18th, 2021. So this was 1 week ago. Okay? Now we go to the next one.
The cost.
And this one is January 25th, 2021. So this isn't something that happened yesterday. This is something that's been going on
Shipping goods from China
for
has
quite
hit
some
record
time.
highs, driven by a critical shortage of containers during the pandemic. It is also causing delays in delivery. Compared with low prices last March, freight rates from China to the US and Europe have surged by as much as 300%.
So we see it's not just American shores. We see it's China, Europe, and many other places around the world. They're having the same problem. Well, right now we'll call it the same problem because it's not really a problem, folks. This is the same thing that happened in the 30s when they made crisis. They are making a crisis. Why are they making a crisis? I'll explain it before we get to it. The shipping containers have a price themselves. And people invest in shipping containers. Why would people invest in shipping containers? Well, look at just one ship. How many shipping containers are on the one ship? The merchandise is no good unless it can be shipped. Okay? So let's look at another one. And these are, you guys should really do that search. You should really go back and search shipping containers in the news. And then you can find all these links. Because when we look at shipping containers in the news, straight from Facebook, watch as I scroll down. And there's 1 day ago. That's a fire issue. What's causing a container ship traffic jam, clogging up global trade? 3 months ago. 2 days ago, let's knocks ships off. Cargo ships are backed up along U.S. shores 2 weeks ago. Container ships stuck at sea 1 week ago. Shipping container shortage is leading to challenges in shipping goods to U.S. and Asia 4 months ago. See, if there's a shortage in shipping containers, then they have to make more shipping containers. So what they do is they stop all the shipping containers at the docks and tell them to wait. This creates what seems to be a shortage of shipping containers because now at the manufacturers there aren't enough shipping containers to put the products onto ships to ship them. So it creates a surge in the shipping container industry. Okay? Pay attention. Shipping container shortage is leading to challenges in shipping goods between the U.S. and Asia. That was 4 months ago. Shipping container prices. Not the price of the products that go in the shipping containers, but the shipping container prices surge in latest trade disputes. See what we're talking about? It's their trading dispute that's causing problems, not us. Not anything other than their trade disputes. That is what it is about. Okay? Critical shortage of containers sends shipping costs soaring amid COVID-19. So what they did was they created a shortage to send the shipping costs soaring. Why shipping container costs are soaring? And look at that. That was done 8 months ago. Okay? 8 months ago they discussed that. How LA's container ship logjam highlights larger pandemic supply chain issues. It's not the logjam that highlights it. It's they're shorting out that highlights what they're doing. It's them sitting there in them docks that highlights what they're doing if you do your research. So these Facebook fact checkers that are saying this shit isn't true, fuck you. Let me see you fact check this video. I mean, we're talking, and look over here. We're hardly even down any portion of the page when we talk about these investing in container shipping stocks. 83 shipping containers fall from cargo ship. Well, what about all the other millions of shipping containers still sitting in docks? Just because you lost 83 shipping containers, doesn't mean there's a shortage. Make some more. That's all it takes. Make some more. Okay? Container ships wait to unload amid backup at ports 1 month ago. Shortage of shipping containers leading to higher cost for goods 4 months ago. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was managing a company and I found out there's a shortage of shipping containers on this end, the shipping end, the manufacturing end, and then found out that a bunch of the shipping containers were still sitting in port with my manufactured products sitting in them not being delivered, it would be on me to say, hey, how come my products are still sitting there? Didn't you agree in a contract to sell that shit? To move that to a certain point for export off of the shelves? I mean, I never contracted to have them sit in warehouse in the storage containers on the water at the docks because somebody else is too lazy. Because that's what it comes down to. In this world, in this day and age, it's either laziness or conspiracy. Control. If you want them controlling your products, you keep getting your products from them. If you don't want that control, and you want to live free, then you have to invest in yourself and not the shipping containers. You have to invest in yourself and where you get your goods, and not in shipping containers and other people that produce the goods and other people that control the chain of supply. You have to get rid of that shit. So let's look at the next one.
U.S. exporters are crying foul as the price of shipping containers spikes. Our Brian Sullivan's in Charleston, South Carolina this morning with an explainer on this latest trade dispute. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Carl. Yeah, I'm going to try to explain it. I mean, you guys like to talk about global macro. This is the most global macro of all the stories, and it involves these things behind us. You don't even think about them, but guess what? When you can't buy stuff at the stores, retailers can't get stuff on their shelves, and Peloton can't get new bikes, that's when you start to think about them. All right, in a basic, very basic way, here's what's going on. In a normal year, it would cost, I don't know, $1,500 to $2,500 to rent one of these things to ship goods from China to Long Beach or Charleston, South Carolina. That's a normal year. Then the container goes inside America, picks up soybeans or bourbon or whatever it is, goes back to the ports, and then is exported to China or other parts of the world. That's how it normally goes. Here's what's happening now. Demand from China is so hot. We are buying so much stuff from China that the container costs, guys, are now $4,000, $5,000, or even $6,000. And it's so profitable for the shipping companies that they'd rather send the containers back to China empty to basically get back in line, like that taxi driver at LaGuardia, than to put that container on the interior of the United States. Which means, guys, that if you want to ship stuff around the world, you're going to either have trouble getting a container or you're going to have to pay a lot more. And it's got exporters crying foul to the point where they are asking the government for help because they want to sell soybeans and bicycles and whatever around the world, and they can't get one of these things. And meantime, the shipping companies are just printing money. It's one of these things that we never thought about until we do. And by the way, almost everything coming into the ports, guys, is tariffed. but China has never sold us more goods at any time in history, and it's really disrupting this.
So we have to ask, with this pandemic in Wuhan and everything, what is the deal with China and all the shipping back and forth? Is the pandemic a distraction from this? Of course it is. It's a multifaceted attempt to screw the people over in their cognitive dissonance of not knowing how to do their own research. So Casey, I urge you to, next time somebody censors you through fact checking, to do some research, do a quick little video and repost it. Fuck the fact checkers. They can't fact check the videos that show where you're getting your information from sources and then say, well, they're lying. See, right now when they censor you, they say you are lying. How can you prove I'm lying if I'm showing you where all these other people are stating the exact same thing that I'm putting? See, now they're forced to say these people are lying. Now, if Facebook fact checkers want to go up against these people, they have to contact them. But see, this is on YouTube, and YouTube hasn't censored it. Oh, goodness. That's Squawk on the Street. That's a private company. This is CBS News. Look at here. That's Follow CNA. China News Association. China News Association. Is Facebook going to censor China? Come on, people. Think about this stuff. This is CNBC. From Squawk on the Street, that's a CNBC. The next one we're going to look at real quick. Shipping container shortages leading to challenge in shipping goods between the U.S. and Asia. Let's take a look. Who is this guy? Darn commercial, and skip
We all know
ad.
the price of stuff has been going up and to the right, and part of the reason why is that the cost of shipping has been exploding over the last 6 months, and we have really...
Goodness, there's Yahoo Finance. Is Facebook going to go up against Yahoo? You know how long Yahoo's been around? Yahoo's been around since the internet been around, folks. You think Yahoo knows what they're doing? Let me tell you a little something about Yahoo, guys. All you people out there worrying about security programs and everything on your computer, I've had Yahoo email for over 25 years, or for over 20 years. I don't know if it's quite been 25 years, but 20 years I've had a Yahoo account. And not once have I ever had an issue with security. Not once. It's not Proton. It's not Proton Mail. It doesn't have all the security encryptions that Proton professes. See, I don't really care about what everybody professes because I take care of my own security. I take care of my own reality. I take care of my own censorship. So when Facebook tries to censor me, I resolve it myself. See, now they can't censor that case law that I put out because I put it out in video form so you can look it up yourself. See, in text form, they wanted to remove the post so people couldn't look it up. See, now I've got a video showing all the sources that I looked up. Now you can look them up too, and Facebook can't do a fucking thing about it. Yeah, Lauren. Missing context. Missing context. You shush. You shush. So, let's get back to it.
seen the crunch come in on containers going from Asia to the United States. Last week, Rachel Premack, senior reporter at Insider, covered this dynamic in a big story on the shipping space. Now, Rachel, you usually cover the logistics and trucking industry, but of course, shipping has now become a part of that. And the part of the story that really stood out to me, and I'd be curious kind of what folks told you about this, is that there's a lack of empty containers. Like, stuff doesn't make its way from the U.S. back to Asia. I mean, is it because there's just ships sitting outside the port of LA? I mean, what's really driving that problem?
Right. So container prices are really at an unprecedented rate right now. And part of the reason, it's not so much that there is a shortage of containers, but a shortage of containers where we need them to be. So part of that issue is that right now there are something like 300 vessels just around the world waiting to be docked. And those vessels are, of course, using valuable containers that we need to put our stuff in. So that's one reason why there is a, quote, container shortage right now. The other reason is that, from exports from Asia to North America or to Europe are far above what they have been in previous years. But imports, the U.S. or Europe sending stuff.
You see what they're saying? They're talking about supply and demand. Now, if the supply is not there, then the demand goes up. And here they're saying the supply is there. That the demands have gone up. And we have all these shipping containers sitting in ports. If the demand's gone up, then why are the shipping containers still sitting in ports? Huh? And this is May of 2021. So this is not a new thing. Okay, so let's look at the next one. The next one is how LA's container ship logjam highlights larger pandemic supply chain issues. Now this is 5 minutes and 45 seconds. So let's see what they have to say.
An average of 30 container ships has sat anchored daily just off the coast of Los Angeles this year.
The normal number of container ships at anchor is 0 to 1.
This ship, the Everfront, not to be confused with the now famous Ever Given, was waiting for 13 days.
Seeing vessels at anchorage outside the nation's largest container port
does
not happen
CEO.
every day. And it is a once in about a decade situation that we see.
Everfront was part of a bottleneck in the supply chain that's still straining the neighboring ports, which handle about a third of all U.S. imports.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the ports have never really seen this confluence of stresses that they've had to deal with.
So what's causing this offshore queue? How do these waiting ships impact customers onshore? And when will it return to normal?
I think we got here because we all had to stay home.
Experts say if there's one cause for the backup, it's COVID-19.
Staying home leads you to go, all right, my desk isn't great if I've got one, my chair isn't comfortable even if I've got one, I might need a new computer monitor, I might need a webcam, actually I can't go to the gym, so I'm going to go buy a Peloton or a running machine or some dumbbells.
For many Americans, that has meant placing online orders for those items, most of which aren't made in the U.S. Seaborne imports to the U.S. started surging in the late summer as manufacturers and retailers tried to rebuild inventories that were depleted by shoppers in the early months.
Wrong. I'm telling you now, and if you don't believe me and you can't see it, this was caused inherently by operation of the pandemic. Closing down of small businesses, such as the gym that he spoke about. He couldn't go to the gym because of the pandemic. Therefore, he ordered his own equipment online. Electronic accounts. Remember this. This is what it's about. This is what this issue is about. They are trying to force people to start ordering things online rather than go to the store. That way they don't have to ship them inland to stores. Okay? They're trying to wipe out the little guys. Period.
Months of the pandemic.
We had 57 extra ships arrive in the fall above normal levels, which choked the system because at that same time, the goods movement system ashore, the terminals, the trains, the trucks, the warehouses, the forklift drivers, had some fraction of the workforce out with COVID.
You suppose it was planned? Like I said, it has everything to do with COVID because of the workforce and the people that are not allowed to go out and do this and that believe that they are not allowed to do that. Okay? They're showing you they have control. They have control of this industry, and you will suffer by it if you depend on it. Okay? Think about this stuff. This is planned. It is a control operation. They know what they're doing. Don't be fooled by it.
And a different fraction out because of contact tracing. So just when there's more cargo, there's a less efficient goods movement in the system ashore, so the ship's backed up.
But shipments continued, peaking in February when 177 container ships carrying more than 800,000 containers arrived at the Southern California ports. That's 31% more ships and 49% more containers than the same month last year. This gap highlights a related issue. The ships are getting bigger.
There's been a significant increase in the number of the very biggest boats that come in. And whilst they're very efficient when they're at sea, they're a devil to unpack and a devil to park. And so it takes longer to get all of them sorted out.
So, the ships continue to wait an average of 7.5 days before reaching the port. And that means consumers are waiting too.
Okay, Peloton, let's go.
This is something buyers of Peloton bikes may already know. The company said in its latest earnings report that backups contributed to recent shipping delays.
I'm sure you've seen that on a lot of e-commerce sites. It's taking longer than normal to deliver to you. And so, there's that kind of customer disappointment angle, and companies will then need to think, okay, how do I avoid that in the future?
Peloton, come on, let's get this workout started.
For Peloton, the answer has been to spend more. The company said it would spend $100 million in transportation, including air shipments, in the first half of the year to get around the bottlenecks at the port. Mom-and-pop retailers also have products they'd hoped to sell stuck on these ships, and many of the smallest shops can't afford to fly products in instead.
Remember what I just said? It's about the little guy. They're trying to wipe out the little guy because the little guy cannot possibly make it through this if they are dependent upon the shipping industry. So think about this stuff, people. And do not let Facebook fact checkers get away with just pulling this out of the public domain. They have no right to do that. They have no power to do that unless you let them.
But the ships aren't the only issue here. The entire supply chain, from ports to warehouses to distribution centers, is inundated with cargo.
So, if the cargo is not moving quickly from the ship to the shore, out through the warehouses to the consumer, everything else is going to start to back up.
This congestion, which was driven by demand for shipping, also means that
it was driven by COVID, which shortened and cut out many activities that caused people to change their activities and thus had to purchase new products like the guy was talking about. If you can't go to the gym, you buy gym equipment for your own self. Same thing with everything else. I see somebody said something about they needed a refrigerator part and it was on back order for months, so they ended up having to just buy another refrigerator. This is what it's doing. And it is a control mechanism. They don't want people using things forever. They want them to be renewable. They want them to last for a limited time so that they will have to turn around and buy a new one or buy new parts.
The cost of shipping has gone up. The current global average shipping rate is nearly 4 times what it was in January 2020, according to data from S&P Global Platts.
Did your income come up 4 times since 2020? If not, then why did the cost of shipping go up 4 times since 2020? Because the shipping costs went up 4 times, did the products go up 4 times? No, not quite. Some may have. Some have definitely gone up. But see, the price differences don't add up. They don't add up. So what do you think this other $3,300 is? You suppose that's for insurance or kind of patting somebody's ass through their wallet or what? Well, I don't really give a shit what the reality is. Ain't none of my business. I ain't concerned about it. I don't depend upon it. But those of you that do should really be concerned about this. You have mathematics skills, basic mathematics skills, that say if the end product goes up 4 times, then it should have gone up 4 times at the beginning. It should stay consistent throughout the process. If not, somebody is patting their ass.
Someone's going to pay for that. It's either going to come off companies' profits or they're going to pass it through to consumers. The longer it lasts, the more likely it is the consumer's going to pay it.
There you go. Who's paying it? Who's dependent upon it? If the consumer is the one paying it because they're dependent upon it, and you are no longer dependent upon it, what can they control? See, if people come together and tell them by their actions that they're no longer under the control of these manufacturers and these corporate leaders and stuff, then what can the corporate leaders do? Who are they going to cry to? That's why we really have to stand up and take control of our own lives, folks. We are, in fact, as this guy says, the consumers are paying for it.
At the ports, workers are pushing to get the anchored ships moving.
Pre-pandemic, we were welcoming, on average, 10 container vessels in to work at the port, loading and unloading containers every day.
In earlier reports, it said 35 daily. Remember the one we first watched? 35 daily.
During this surge, we've been averaging 15 vessels working every day in the port. That's a 50% jump in productivity alongside our vessels every day.
Soroka says the port's short-term strategy focuses on vaccinating workers, maximizing efficiencies, and asking importers to more quickly pick up cargo.
So their first priority was vaccinating workers. I don't think it's a problem with the supply demand. I think it's a problem with trying to control the workforce. See, it's a control mechanism on the workforce. And if they can't control the workforce, then that's what shows up here. This is the issue that is showing up. The stockpiling of shipping containers, because they are having a problem controlling the dock workers through a medical consent.
That, he predicts, will help clear the backlog of ships by this summer. Any longer could bring more problems.
We have a short window here before our traditional peak season kicks off in August for back to school, other retail requirements, and the all-important year-end holiday.
With Americans receiving a fresh round of stimulus, this bottleneck could intensify. And how states and the federal government proceed with...
Notice he said Americans receiving stimulus. Now, I don't know who classifies themselves an American or a U.S. citizen, but there is a distinct difference. If you're getting a stimulus, you are noted in their record as a U.S. citizen, resident in the state. No other way. Those are the only people that get stimulus checks. Party to the check. You are, in fact, admitting that you are a United States citizen, resident in the state.
With reopening, may impact that.
If we're going to spend another summer lockdown, then people are going to be buying, new lawn chairs and a whole bunch of stuff they didn't buy last year. If everything's open again and people can go on vacation, it's all services spending. We're not going to buy stuff. So the demand for shipping will drop off relatively quickly.
So you see what's happening there. You notice where that $3,300 is going to. They're recognizing or planning, obviously, because they know how these things work. Like I said, it's mathematical, and they know when something bulges up at the end, like they're doing here with the control, stockpiling everything on the stocks or on the docks. And then when the pandemic opens up and everybody realizes, hey, yay, we won, we're free, we get to go do what we want, then they ship everything through. Guess what that does? Makes everything seem as normal again, when in fact they just changed you. So let's look at a couple more. I got 4 more up here we're going to look at real quick.
Shipping slowdowns are happening everywhere.
We are all connected, so if one major port goes down.
This one here is what's causing the container ship traffic jam clogging up global trade. Remember, I said it's not just the American shores. It's China, Asia, Europe. It's all the other countries around the world. They're all dealing with the same issue because it's a pandemic issue and not a shipping issue. They're using the pandemic as a material merchandise control issue. So pay attention. This one's 10 minutes. We're not going to listen to the whole thing.
Shipping slowdowns are happening everywhere.
We are all connected, so if one major port goes down, it literally impacts the whole sum of all.
If one port goes down, it literally impacts the whole sum. You guys understand this, right? If one port gets logged up, it affects the entire chain because the entire chain of shipping is worldwide. Once it gets to your country of origin, it becomes transportation, traffic, and commerce. It's the same thing. It's just a worldwide level.
All the parts.
The Ever Given, which clogged up the super important Suez Canal back in March of 2021, was the canary in the coal mine for recent global trade slowdowns. But before...
When that ship went down and clogged up that canal, what it did was it lost a bunch of containers. And it caused chaos. Just like a ship sitting in port. A ship sitting in a canal blocking traffic going in and out or passing through is going to do the same thing.
For this calamity, disruptions from the COVID-19 pandemic hit port after port, with the aftershocks hitting the consumer market.
So you see how it was initiated. The COVID pandemic, cutting workers from the workforce, requiring them, and therefore they automatically had to slow down because they didn't have enough workers. That was the stoppage. It had nothing to do with shipping. It had to do with their control mechanism through the pandemic, by using the pandemic.
The scarcity of capacity of ships, there's a scarcity of empty containers, which we have never seen before.
All of the containers are full, and they need to be unloaded. But you notice, it said before, they were shipping, and they had some that weren't full. They may not have been empty, but there was plenty of space. So if that's the case, then why are they saying that there's a shortage of containers when they had plenty of space before, and now there's a shortage of container? Again, like I said, the shortage of container comes because the containers are sitting dockside and not being unloaded and reloaded to send back to another port. There's not a shortage of containers. There's always been a good supply of containers. Always. The problem is now that there's a pandemic and there's no way to transport them internally because certain number of truckers have quit or this or that because of the pandemic. Okay?
The container ships that travel between the world's major ports are a marvel of engineering.
90% of world trade moves on water.
In 2019, 11.1 billion tons of goods were moved across the world's oceans. And according to the World Shipping Council, the liner industry moves more than $4 trillion in goods annually. These vessels depend on people to get them from A to B, and the complex logistics systems that make up the global trade network. But what?
So, does the industry depend on the containers or the people, as this man just said? See, the shipping industry is dependent upon the people because the machines and the shipping containers and the ships are not going to operate themselves. Okay? This is the control mechanism. Control the people operating and you control the industry.
What happens when things don't go according to plan?
Fall in Wisconsin. It's the most spectacular time of year.
What happens when things don't go to plan, folks?
Container ships are a relatively recent innovation. In the late 1950s, the concept of a standardized container being loaded onto a ship was revolutionary. These containers could be offloaded onto freight trains or long-haul trucks, and goods could be efficiently shipped to where they were needed all around the globe.
Postal roads and routes. Those containers, like they said, fit on rail cars and trucks. Everything, they stated 90% of world trade is conducted on the water now. And that's because one ship with all these containers going to port, coming from one country, going to another, sit at port, get unloaded, and they are either shipped from that point to another destination south or north, or continue west or east to the other opposite coast. This is how trading, shipping industry works. Just like a bus line, just like a rail line. It's got trans stations that will hook up east and west to hook up to your north and south routes. Same thing with the shipping industry when they go from coast to coast. One from the exporter from one country, from that coast to the next coast, they're generally going to go east and west, around the globe, the world, whatever, flat earth, whatever. They're going from one direction to another or back and forth. And then once they reach those ports, they go north or south, or east or west across the land to reach their final destination. Like I said, that's a 10-minute one. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. This is information you guys need to look up yourself and watch these videos. So let's look at the next one. We got two more after this one. This one here is only $3.44.
The reason you're paying more for everyday items and perhaps struggling to find some in the store, a vital parking lot in the Pacific. Container ships, mostly from Asia, stretching across the horizon. To get an up-close view, we rode along with LA Port Police Marine 12. It didn't take long. The radar suddenly filled with ships. That's it right here. They're right outside the outer harbor. 76 ships waiting for up to 10 days each to enter the port of Los Angeles or nearby Long Beach. Everywhere you look, there's a ship just sitting out here in the water. And 500,000 containers. But this is just one component of the stretched global supply chain that runs from Asian manufacturers across the Pacific to American consumers, now backed up and bottlenecked. Gene Soroka runs the Port of Los Angeles, America's biggest. How many ships a day now are coming in here?
In the last month and a half, we're averaging 18 ships a day.
That's nearly double the number that arrived daily before the pandemic. Making matters worse, there aren't enough truck drivers to take the goods from the docks to the nation's stores.
The American importer cannot digest all of this cargo into their domestic supply chains. 50% of all truckers licensed to do business at the ports no longer come here.
Hired away by
50% of the truckers licensed to transport no longer go there. You suppose they lost 50% of their workforce when they induced the American people into this pandemic? So let's look at the next one. Port of Los Angeles CEO on record, backlog of container ships hitting the U.S. This was October 6th, just a couple weeks ago.
Crisis is escalating. Record backlogs of container ships are hitting ports in the U.S., and the Port of Los Angeles is bearing the brunt of it. It is estimated nearly 500,000 shipping containers are waiting to be offloaded outside the ports of L.A. and Long Beach. Ports also facing a shortage of workers. Joining me now is Port of Los Angeles CEO Gene Sirocco. And Gene, the Port of LA recently did announce a new program to try and ease the issue. Talk about what you're seeing, and the biggest question this morning, what are you going to do to help all these ships out?
We're doing just about everything, Cheryl, and good morning. We've got about those 500,000 20-foot equivalent units, which is 250,000 containers, or about 2 weeks worth of work here at the largest port in the country. 3 segments of workers. Number one, the longshore workers, the dock workers who move all the cargo on and off the vessels, trains, and trucks. They've been out on the job 6 days a week. We've added another 1,000 longshore members, and they've been showing up with record productivity. In fact, vessel production is up 50%, 50, since the surge began last summer. And each ship that comes to the Port of Los Angeles, on average, is exchanging 11,300 container units loaded off and on those ships, which is the best in the world today. Truckers, though, are a little bit light. Only about half of those truckers registered to do business at the Twin Ports are coming to work at least once a week. We need more folks in that sector. They've left to go to package service and other segments of industry. And then thirdly, the warehouse workers. They typically work during the day only and have been hit pretty hard by COVID-19 and other requirements of the workforce. We need more folks on the job there as well.
COVID-19 and other requirements. Well, how is COVID-19 a requirement, folks?
Okay, so you're still seeing pandemic effects there. I want to bring in my colleague Nancy Tangler. Nancy, because obviously this is a bigger story, a lot to unpack in this, Nancy.
Yeah, Cheryl, and thank you so much, Gene. My question really is around the truckers. I think I know that isn't your purview, but are you working with the trucking companies, and what is the administration and the Secretary of Transportation saying about all of this? Because it's not only your port, but now there's dozens of ships sort of hovering off Savannah. So we just continue to have this problem across the country, though understandably Long Beach and LA are key.
What you're seeing is the American consumer's strength on display every day. We're buying more cargo than ever. We're in the midst of our seasonal products as well as year-end holidays all converging at one time. But you're right. We've got a trucker shortage nationwide with a 12% attrition rate. We've got to show folks that this is a profession to attract, recruit, and retain drivers in this sector. Very important to all of us. We're working very closely with the administration and senior officials led by John Percari, our port envoy assigned by the White House, and trying to move everything we can. We've created a program called Accelerate Cargo LA, pushing cargo out to importers because cargo is sitting longer than ever before. About half of the products on our docks are sitting 5 days or longer, and an amazing 1/4 of those containers sitting 13 days or more. We've got to push this cargo out, match it up with truck power, and get corresponding exports and empties back here to.
So, let's go on to the last one. And notice he said pushing the products to importers. Pushing. That sounds like inducement.
Now to something much less exciting. Americans may need to start their holiday shopping early this year because of bottlenecks in the world's supply chains. Shipping containers and unloaded ships are jamming up ports, and there's a shortage of truck drivers to get the products out to customers. President Biden is meeting with business executives and port directors today to try to address this problem. Meanwhile, our Weijia Zhang is at the White House for us covering all of it. Weijia, hope you started shopping early. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Tony, and good morning to everybody. The administration just announced that several of the companies President Biden is meeting with today, like UPS and FedEx, will be moving to 24/7 operations to try to clear up some of that congestion. And 2 ports in California that handle 40% of the country's cargo containers will also open around the clock. But some supply chain experts worry that still won't be enough to get things moving.
Shipping delays will result in empty shelves.
Carly McGinnis.
Open all shifts. That means there are some shifts that are closed. These shipping docks normally run 24/7. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those cranes are operating on a normal basis. It wasn't until the control mechanism was put in place through the pandemic that they started shutting shifts down. Because this is one of the ways that they use to control the people, just like the banking emergency back in the beginning of the century. They're doing it again. They do it on a regular basis. They find different ways to do it. And it's all because you people are dependent upon the supply and demand. You got to get rid of the supply and demand thing, the whole concept of supply and demand. You are provided everything you need freely, and you are to give freely what was freely given. This is part of the whole problem of all of this that's going on in these modern times, is people have become so dependent. So think about this stuff, people.
Is the COO of a California-based toy company struggling to fulfill some orders because their products are trapped in the port of Long Beach. McGinnis's team considered taking drastic measures to retrieve them.
Chartering a helicopter to come and try to pull the container out of the shipyard. We also debated renting a U-Haul to unload it ourselves.
Thousands of containers are stuck because the ships transporting them have nowhere to go.
It's like taking 10 lanes of freeway traffic and squeezing them into 5.
Ports across the country are dealing with similar bottlenecks. In March 2020, COVID restrictions caused ports to cut capacity. As the economy rebounds, there's more stuff to import. But on the ground, trucks can't move it fast enough, due in part to a driver shortage. The Biden administration is working with states to speed up the process to get trucking licenses out faster. Ryan Peterson.
There you go. Speed up the process to get licenses out faster. Speeding up the process by not disclosing the true facts. Hey, we need you to work. We're going to pay you extra. We're going to pay you more than the last guy. Okay, great. We really need to think about this stuff.
Who runs a tech company for global logistics, says the help can't come soon enough.
In any complex system where you see the same input leading to longer and longer delays, that is a very worrying sign that things are getting worse and worse and worse.
And with less supply on the shelves, prices are surging. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen spoke with CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Nora O'Donnell.
As the economy adjusts and we get the pandemic under control, these pressures will mitigate, and I believe we'll go back to normal levels.
Of course, one big question is how is all of this going to impact the holiday shopping season? Now, some companies had the foresight to start bringing things in early, but others that are waiting for inventory cannot guarantee an arrival date. So Ryan Peterson, who we just heard from, says to start shopping now. Nate?
Oh, my. Oh, goodness. So now we see it's an effort to try to get you to buy your Christmas presents now. To get you to buy your Halloween stuff on Easter. To get you to buy stuff early so that you can warehouse it. So we really need to think about this stuff. And Casey, I hope this helps. Again, this is a video to help explain how to stop these fact checkers. They're fact checking the text when you type in on a keyboard and put up a post. Whereas if you do a video and show your sources and everything, there's nothing they can do about it. I assure you, this video will remain. And if they try to remove it, I'll just post it again. Because sooner or later, if we see what's going on in the bigger aspect of Facebook, you can see they're coming up here real soon to be put down like a dog. Okay? They will no longer be the platform they instituted at the beginning. They will be exposed for being the commercial advertisers they are, nothing more and nothing less. And their limitations will be expressed duly, that they don't have. They don't have the power to censor, like I said, that which is in the public domain. If it's in the public domain, it's known in fact as law, or in law as fact, excuse me. And to dismiss what is factual in a social platform by censorship is a violation of freedom of speech, a violation of the press. It's saying that they can publish truth and fact in the public domain, but to take that public domain truth and fact and place it on a social network named Facebook would be a violation of Facebook policy. That proves to us that Facebook policy in fact violates freedom of speech. So think about this, folks, and remember, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. My next video will be on my bike tire. If some of you guys are familiar with my new custom, I put an engine on my bike, so I got a product, and then I added another product, and I even customized it by 2 sets of handlebars. I just took another set of handlebars and welded it on top of this set of handlebars. So there's a specific custom, and then I added an engine, and in doing so, this is a custom job, so we have several different problems with it. And one of the problems I found is that in putting an engine on a regular bike, it adds more torque. So when the wheel is going around this way and it's grabbing, it's actually slipping on the rim. And what that does is the inner tube inside slips with it. And so the valve stem, instead of standing straight up, it ends up cocked. And what it does is it will cut the valve stem at the base of the valve stem. And for the most part, that would be an unrepairable hole on a car tire, an inner tube on a car tire. It's just too much, it's too dangerous there. But on a bike, you can actually take another inner tube, and as long as you don't cut that all the way out and just cut the stem, that hole itself is smaller than the stem. So when you put that over top of this with some rubber cement, it should actually seal it. But anyway, I'll be back with a video later on that to show you my fix on the front tire on how to keep that from slipping. And in the meantime, again, remember, folks, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. Casey, I hope this helps you out on your censorship with Facebook. Everybody else, please start paying attention. Quit being so shy. Don't be limiting yourself to just text post, but start doing some videos. Let me see your face. A lot of you people, I don't know your face. And that's one of my favorite things in communicating with people. I prefer face-to-face communication. When I go to any kind of restaurant, if I ever go to a restaurant, it's always, I like to go inside. I don't want to speak to a machine. I don't speak to machines at the store when I go to check out at the counter. I'm not going to the automatic machines. I'm going to somebody where I can stand face to face and speak to them. Because once I get to a machine and the machine doesn't want to do what I think it's supposed to do, then I still got to go get somebody else to help me figure out what the machine is fucking up. So think about this stuff, and it's time to change, people. Time to be more imaginative and start thinking about this stuff. When Facebook tries to censor something, realize they have no right, no power to censor unless you let them. So every time they've tried to censor me or I've got a lot of people that do videos. And so when they come up and it says, so-and-so is selling live. They tried doing that to me months back. And the first thing I did was, oh, no, this is your caveat. When I go live, I'm going live, and that's it. I'm not selling or buying anything here, folks. So I put a caveat, again, because it's facebook.com, .com standing for commercial. I'm not in a commercial venue. I'm using that commercial venue as a social platform as it was advertised when it first came about almost 15 years ago. And so I placed a caveat that you don't post that I'm selling when you have no facts saying that I'm selling. When you come across facts that show that I am selling, then you can post Keith Little is selling live. But otherwise, I don't sell shit. I don't buy anything, and I don't sell it. So think about this stuff, people. And like I said, I'll be back with another video on that. On my bike. I'm also going to do one I mentioned yesterday on I see. Remember in the shipping video here, I spoke about everybody doing orders online. I see. That virtual definitive account is slowly changing to electronic accounts. Yes. So think about that, and I'll be back with a video on that. I'll also be doing a video I mentioned the other day in my last video that I would do a video on retrieving your data from Facebook and saving it on your own devices, so that if Facebook does do the censoring stuff like they've done to me, articles that I posted years ago, Facebook recently went public and are no longer a private corporation, but a public offering, and so they deal with the bonds and stuff for their investments. So they changed their policy, and when they did so, their program went back goes through the profile. When you get memories that come up on Facebook, their program will look at your memories now. And so if your memory is even like 5 years old, it'll go back and say, oh, censor. If it goes against their community standards now. Even though it didn't go against their community standards back then, now that they changed their policy, they're saying it goes against their community standards. Can't do that. That's in violation of what they call the grandfather clause. If you already had a policy and it was instituted, and I made an agreement to that policy, that's the policy I stand by. So when Facebook brings up these new policy things, I go through and I read them, and I send them a little note that this does not apply. This does not apply. This does not apply. And I give them reasons why they don't apply. Just like my caveat on saying that I was selling live. I'm sorry, you can't say that I'm selling live if you have no evidence that I am selling anything. Okay? Just because you're on a platform, a .com platform, and you are a seller, and you want to use my space as an advertisement spot, doesn't mean I am selling and that you get to use my page as an advertisement spot. I'm not going to allow that. That wasn't my intent. My intent when I signed up was social. It was advertised as a social platform, and that was my intent, not commercial. So again, think about this, folks, and I'll be back with that video on the bike, the video on electronic accounts, and a video on saving your Facebook data. Next day or two, be watching. Meantime, have a good day, folks. Love y'all. Bye.